In recent years, relations between the United States and China have deteriorated. The House of Representatives has now traveled to Taiwan. How will Nancy's visit affect the relationship's status? They now have the potential to become quite ugly, with serious ramifications for the global economy. Here's what we know about the connection. First, let's take a look at the US-China relationship in light of the visit. For the time being, everything seems to be under control. Following Nancy Pelosi's visit and Beijing's retaliatory military exercises, financial markets have stayed calm. China's aim is to make a show of might and then retreat. Its ruler, Xi Jinping, does, however, have economic and financial weapons at his disposal. In contrast, China may make it more difficult for US companies to access its market. It will take its time, for example, before authorizing Boeing to commence 737 MAX sales. This would speed the split of the world's two greatest economies, which Donald Trump has begun and Joe Biden has perpetuated. Republicans and Democrats both loathe Beijing, one of the few areas where they agree. China, on the other hand, may go even farther and use a blockade to exploit Taiwan's dependency on imported petroleum. According to Mark Williams, senior Asia economist at Capital Economics, this would hurt Taiwan's economy and cause huge global economic instability. This is due to the fact that the island already generates more than half of the world's semiconductors, which are used in everything from mobile phones to vehicles and are in short supply. Export limitations on chips would result in supply shortages, higher prices, and slower GDP growth. The United States would almost definitely face pressure to participate militarily, as well as impose economic sanctions and asset freezes. Financial markets are most likely underestimating Taiwan's vulnerability. At the very least, business trust will be harmed further. The likelihood of tit-for-tat trade restrictions has increased. National self-sufficiency will be promoted in order to reduce dependency on global supply networks. That is an unduly optimistic reading of the situation. There is a slim chance that this increasingly strained Cold War may become hot. Following that, it seems that oil prices will continue to plummet. There was a period when meetings of OPEC were often featured on the front pages of newspapers. When Sheikh Ahmad Yamani, the petroleum minister of Saudi Arabia, passed away a year ago, the obituaries that were published highlight how essential he was in the process of influencing the price of oil throughout the globe. However, all of it occurred a very long time ago. Even while it does not have the same level of influence over the global energy markets as it once had in the 70s and 80s, OPEC has transformed into OPEC Plus as a consequence of the admission of new members, the most notable of which is Russia. The price of oil is already far lower than it was in the immediate aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and it's anticipated that prices will fall even more over the next several months. That has everything to do with the demand in the global market, and absolutely nothing to do with the pointless decision that OPEC Plus made on Wednesday to increase oil production by 100,000 barrels per day. The United States of America, the Eurozone, and China are the three biggest economies in the world, and the International Monetary Fund reports that all three of these economies are experiencing a slowdown. The current price of oil, which is $100 a barrel, is more indicative of robust global growth than it is of an imminent economic downturn. Oil prices seem to have additional ground to cover, regardless of whether or not OPEC Plus decides to boost production in order to contribute to the downward pressure. That is really good news for motorists in the United Kingdom, if the reduction in petrol costs is passed on to them by the retailers of fuel. Moving on, consider why regional compensation for public sector employees is a bad idea. Liz Truss, deputy director of the center-right think tank Reform, may have proposed regional pay boards to align public sector salaries with local labor market realities. There is nothing wrong with it. Think tanks exist to produce groundbreaking new ideas. Politicians, on the other hand, must distinguish between excellent and bad ideas, and regional compensation for public sector employees unquestionably falls into the latter. This is due to a confluence of factors. Reduced government pay, according to one point of view, would limit spending power in areas of the nation where demand is low. Another challenge is attracting elite talent from outside of London and the Southeast. Because it ignores the government's role in leveling up, the approach is both terrible economics and bad politics. It's no wonder Truss abandoned the idea within 24 hours of its conception. Following that, UK businesses are severing links with China amid broader concerns, according to the CBI chairman. Following rising political and security tensions between Beijing and the West, British firms are hurrying to break commercial relations with China, according to one industry leader. Tony Danker, Director General of the Confederation of British Industry, CBI, cautioned that the abrupt reconfiguration of supply chains from China China might worsen the cost of living problem. In an interview with the Financial Times Weekend, he said that hundreds of firms in the UK were reconsidering supply chains in anticipation of anti-China political sentiment intensifying. Danker said that if the West loses connections with China, the UK would need to identify new trade partners and reignite existing ones, such as the EU, and that if Britain fails to do so, corporate supply chains will be more costly and hence inflationary, and its trade policy will be redefined. If the political and security experts are correct, we will all need to be good friends again, he remarked. Every firm I deal with right now is reconsidering their supply chains because they believe that our politicians will surely drive toward a future divorced from China. According to the CBI president, Britain needs new strategic connections throughout the globe. In Washington, he noted, all they're talking about is the necessity for businesses to establish resilience in preparation for a breakup with China. It doesn't take a genius to assume cheap items and cheaper things may be a thing of the past, Danker said, predicting price increases. The CBI chief's remarks regarding Britain's economic dependency on China come as the conservative leadership campaign proceeds, with China playing a prominent role. Next up, Kuwait is a firm supporter in the One China policy. According to Kuwait's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Majdi Ahmad Al-Dafiri, his nation is fully committed to upholding the One China policy. During a meeting with the Chinese ambassador to Kuwait, Zhang Jianwei, which took place in Kuwait City on Sunday, Al-Dafiri said that Kuwait strictly adheres to this viewpoint as well as all international decisions that are directly connected to it. He also emphasized the need for all parties involved to uphold the fundamental standards that govern international relations in order to maintain the peace and stability of the globe. The Chinese ambassador stated that the One China principle is a universally recognized basic norm that governs international relations and that it has the consensus of the international community. The ambassador also stated that the visit to China's Taiwan region by the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, was a serious violation of the One China principle, and that it violated China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Finally, Sunak's scheme tries to outwit Truss over China. Rishi Sunak's preemptive attack on Liz Truss over alleged Foreign Office hostility towards China seems to be a valiant attempt to stave off a Tory leadership challenge. However, by presenting oneself as the superior authoritarian opponent, it draws the candidates into a potentially uncontrollable fight. Sunak foresaw a Truss attack because, when ITV permitted him to ask one question during the discussion, Truss chose the obscure Westminster issue of whether he supported the meeting of the UK-China Economic and Financial Dialogue Council. It seemed to be a deliberate attempt to separate Sunak's Treasury-led China strategy with her desire for a more confrontational stance. Truss supporters briefed the Sunday papers this week, accusing Sunak of seeking trade deals with China. Sunak's aides reasoned that rolling out the Truss red carpet for the Chinese would gratify his media base while endangering her reputation as a Cold War combatant. They were correct. It also echoed remarks made last week by MI6 head Richard Moore, who said that China was now the UK's top priority. His drive to be the first to market has alarmed more than the Chinese embassy in the UK. Conservative MPs have long been worried about the emergence of a Dutch auction anti-China. For example, Boris Johnson's brother Joe has long warned that a complete exit, economic separation from the world's second largest economy, would be like attempting to fly the global Britain plane while simultaneously shutting down both primary engines. Companies headquartered in developing nations may be concerned of upsetting China's state-controlled markets. Many of these businesses would have preferred Sunak's previous statement in his Mansion House address last year, in which he stated that the China discussion required nuance, adding, "We can pursue our economic partnership with China in a safe, mutually beneficial manner without surrendering our beliefs." On your way out, be sure to click that subscribe button. Thank you for your time.